Hello once again, and welcome back to What's Next, Brand. And on this episode, we are going to be discussing OTS, or Officer Training School. And so I chatted about my base in North Carolina. I think that was from 2000 and no, 1998 until 2002. And in 2002 is when another big life change. I was selected for OTS and I went to OTS in the summer of 2002. And I don't know if I mentioned this in my previous video, but uh, I worked with a senior master sergeant who was less than supportive. And I'll never forget when I left for OTS, he was like, "Oh, congratulations. Congratulations, Sergeant Barr. We'll see you in a couple months." Insinuating that I was not going to pass or complete OTS, but joke's on him. I did. For those who do not know, OTS, or Officer Training School, is one of the commissioning sources for the Air Force. And so to become an officer in the Air Force, you could either go to the Air Force Academy and graduate as a second lieutenant, or you could go to ROTC, go to school and then do an ROTC program and then come out as a second lieutenant, or you can do OTS. And OTS is I don't have the data on this, but from my observation, OTS is probably the largest commissioning source for folks who are already enlisted, like the prior enlisted people, which is what I was. And interestingly enough, when I went to OTS, it was probably about 40, 60, 40% prior enlisted folks, and about 60% just straight civilians off the street. And I've heard some people who went to OTS and it was about 50-50. Some people said at one point it was like almost a little bit more prior enlisted than it was just civilians straight out the street. But from my experience, it was about 40% of us were prior enlisted and the other half were civilians. And so, given that ratio, they try to room people together, one like prior enlisted person or person who's already served before, and a straight up civilian. And that's what happened to me. My OTS roommate, Brandy, I forget what her last name was, but she was a scientist. Um, and she was really sweet. No idea. No idea. But I will say, having done basic training to be enlisted and then going to OTS was a cakewalk. Okay, it was a cakewalk for like the rules, the regulations, like making sure your room is squared away, making sure you're where you're supposed to be in the right uniform, all that kind of stuff. All the stuff that civilians kind of was very jarring for them. It was very like, oh my gosh, I don't know what to do. Like that part was very, very easy. Like the fact that I had my own bathroom that I only shared with one other person, right? The fact that it was like a 2-bedroom suite. The fact that you didn't have to like run down. We didn't have a chow runner. There was nobody that had to go and get us a time to eat chow. Some of those funny and ridiculous things that we had to do in basic training, we didn't have to do for OTS. So a lot of that was not too difficult for me, but for Brandy, it was a lot. Bless her heart. She was okay. She was a scientist. She was younger than me because I went to OTS in 2002. So how old was I? Oh Lord, and let me start to do math in public. Oh, let me write this. I got my calculator's on my phone. Okay, I was born in 1972. Or 73. I was born in 73. And then 2002. Wait, okay. So 83, I was 10. 93, I was 20. And then, so 2003, I would have been 30. So I was 29. Math. So I was 29. And I think Brandy was probably 27 or 28. She wasn't like young, but she wasn't like some of the older. We had some older folks that were in there too. Older meaning older than like, I think 31 or 32 was the cutoff at the time. Anyway, so Brandy was a little bit experienced. She was a little bit older. And she just didn't understand why we had to do some of the stupid things. Like, why do we have to be up and dressed at 4:30 a.m. when the first thing doesn't start until 5 a.m.? Why do we have to like stand in this really rigid way so people can just look at us and just walk past us? She didn't really understand it. And there was nothing I could tell her to make her understand it other than just do this so you A, don't get in trouble, and B, you can just slide through. As long as you are following the rules, nobody is going to pay attention. As long as you're not doing anything different, dumb, and stupid. What they used to say when we have inspections, don't try to do anything new, something. Just do what they tell you to do and you'll be fine. But so in OTS, they make leaders, right? And so Brandy, everybody had to march people, right? So that was the thing with OTS. So they have like upperclassmen and lowerclassmen. And so it's like it's a 3-month commissioning source. And halfway through your 3 months, there will be somebody graduating, meaning your upper class will graduate, and then you turn into the upper class, and then your junior class comes in under you. And so essentially there were some people who were upperclassmen who literally had only been in the military, had only been in the Air Force for 6 weeks. But yet they're the ones that are like, oh, OT, blah, 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 OT, blah, blah, blah. Like they were trying to like discipline or correct us, which was challenging for me because I'm looking at them like, seriously? But Brandy didn't know. Whatever. So anyway, everybody had to like lead certain things. Everybody had to learn how to march. And I think the learning how to march was trying to get some of those civilians to kind of understand facing movements, understand like parade and drill ceremony and all that kind of stuff. And so everybody had to march. Brandy only marched twice. Because dear Brandy marched us into a wall once. She marched us into a wall, and it's funny now, but our drill instructors, like, so we had instructors, we had flight leaders. Our flight leaders were like officers, and we had drill instructors, and they were like enlisted folks that were teaching us how to do drill. When Brandy marched us into the wall, literally everybody just stopped, and she didn't realize it and then she didn't know what to say. She just said, "Halt!" And then she looked around and was looking for help. And then somebody from the back said, "Give us an about face." And so we did an about face, and we tried to do it over again. And then the tech sergeant who was like in charge of us just told her to fall in, and he marched us the rest of the day. The next time that Brandy marched us, bless her heart, what did she do? So we were trying to go into chow, and so you had to march into chow. Chow is like a meal. I don't know if it was breakfast or lunch that day. I can't remember. So we're standing outside, we're waiting our turn, and then there's an order. She had to like announce herself, get the flight ready, tell everybody to get into attention, tell them which way to go, and tell them how to step. When she did that, she accidentally like marched us like into another group of people. And it was so bad. They called her, they said, marching with Brandy OT. Damn, what was her name? I can't remember. They said marching with OT, Brandy was like going into combat. It's complex, or no, they said it was like war, complex and chaotic. And so she just never marched again, but she was really, really sweet. She was really, really, really sweet. But OTS was a fun time. I was in Squadron 1. I was a Gold Hawk. We had a brother flight actually, no, it wasn't segregated. We had, it was, when I say segregated, it wasn't separated by gender. So we had males and females in our flight. And OTS was for me, and I probably still have it. We had these little, so for basic training, we had portfolios with these big black portfolios that every time you were standing, you were supposed to be reading. And it was like regulations, drill, planes, rank. So you would know how to like rank stuff, what ranks were, and all that kind of stuff. And so for OTS, we had this something similar, but it was like a little portfolio. So it was like a little book. And we had to have it on our person at all times. So we would have it like Velcro to our legs or whatever, or Velcroed somewhere that wasn't conspicuous. And so for me, I would have like pictures of Jasmine and quotes because I'm like, why am I doing this? Why would I want to do this again? Why would I want to do this again? Like just standing around, standing at attention, going through all the military things, doing like confidence courses and drill and ceremony and going to the field, pretending like you're going to war, you doing blue thunder or whatever it was, all the things that I just was like, I don't want to do any of this stuff. But Jasmine, of course, was a big source of my inspiration to kind of get through all of that. And when I first got to OTS, like day 0 of training, I didn't really know what to wear because I didn't know if we were like going to start immediately or what. And so I think I wore like some biking shorts and like a long t-shirt and some sweats. I mean, and the long t-shirt and sneakers because it was hot. It was in Alabama in the heat. And when I showed up, um, they called me out. Someone took me aside and said, "You're not dressed like an officer." So immediately I was made to feel othered, as if like I didn't fully understand or fit in or had the right to kind of be there. I immediately felt othered by that. And um, it's one of those things because my whole family has been in the military, so I've been around the military my whole life, but nobody's ever been an officer. And there's this thing I can't really articulate it or name it or call it, this whole officer enlisted thing. Um, and when I showed up, they didn't say, there was no like, this is what you should be wearing, you need to wear khakis and whatever. There was none of that. So I'm just showing up ready to go, ready to do whatever I need to do. And, athleisure before athleisure was a thing. And when they told me that, I was like, oh my gosh, I felt so bad. And I immediately like went through my luggage, found a pair of jeans and put on some jeans and a t-shirt. I guess that was fine. But I guess the biking shorts were, I don't know. I was made to feel as though I was unprofessional, out of place, and didn't belong. And I struggled with that a little bit, especially during OTS, because like I said, there were people, there's about 40% of us who were prior enlisted. So I had already been enlisted before as well. And there was this one dude in our flight. I was leading something or doing something, and he came at me very condescending, very white man, you don't know what the fuck you're doing, and blah, 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 blah. And at the time, it it brought me back to that moment when I first got there. And I didn't respond. I let him do his thing. He wanted to be in charge. He wanted to be the whatever. And I kind of bottled it down. I didn't say anything to him about it. And I didn't even address the situation. But some people came up to me afterward and was like, that dude's a dick. And I'm like, yeah, he is. And I think I reacted that way because I still didn't believe or didn't feel like I had earned it. I didn't feel like I was supposed to be there yet. And so I'm just going to take this shit from this dude because I should just be happy to be here. Didn't really know how to take up space. Didn't really know how to stand fully in who I am and what I did to get me there. And so I remember that feeling from OTS as well. as one of those, like, prickly things that you kind of have to deal with being a Black woman in a white male dominated place, industry, profession, all those kinds of things. But yeah, that was OTS. I had a good time. I learned a lot. Funny enough, our flight leader was a Black woman. And I don't have any real memories of her being a person that was like, hey, as a Black woman, you need to do these things. Like, really, I don't want to say that she did not look out, because I didn't get that sense. I didn't feel like, oh, Captain Bolden's not looking out for me. But I also didn't get a sense of, oh, Captain Bolden's got me, which I fully understand now. And not that I was expecting it then, because I fully understand that she was probably in a position where she was feeling some kind of way, or they were made to feel some kind of way at certain places. And so she was holding it together, doing the best that she could. But I did notice that, that she was Black. And I didn't get a whole lot of comfort from that, if that makes sense. And I'm not trying to poop on her at all. Like, she was great. She was, doing her thing. She was new too. I think we were her second class. So she was a brand new OTS instructor. So she hadn't been doing it very long. But I just remember, Captain Bolden, Black woman. It was just nice. It was nice to see a Black woman in a position of authority at that point as a new Black person coming in. And of course, in my flight, there were no Black, I was the only Black person. Yeah, the only Black person. There were other people, so we had different flights. So in the squadron, Gold Hawk Squadron, Squadron 1, we had obviously more than just me as a Black person, but in my flight specifically, it was just me as a Black woman. But I did OTS. It was so stinking hot. Oh my God, it was so hot. But it was really, really cool. My mom came to the graduation. My daughter came to the graduation, and I was really proud. I was proud for her to see me, do this thing. She had no idea what it meant to be an officer. No idea, but my mom did, because my mom had retired from the Army after 20 years. And it was just wonderful to see her there. She still has they give you a little graduation thing for, you're now Lieutenant, Second Lieutenant Kimberly Barr, and blah, 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 blah. She has it downstairs in her office that's framed. Very, very proud moment for me and the family. But that's the OTS story. All right, next up is going to be things that I found out in Chicago, going to Chicago this weekend. All right, guys. Thanks for watching. See you next time.